Hi everyone and welcome to Student Engagement with Nearpod. So it's Ashley back here again with you for this session, and I'm going to walk you through the student engagement platform Nearpod here for about the next kind of 50 minutes. So we will have time for questions and answers at some stage in the middle of this session, but then also again at the end. So please do feel free to interact in the Q&A. So basically, I posted on the PD Hub that it would be helpful if you had another device with you. It's not a requirement, so you don't have to do this, but it would be really good if you tried experiencing Nearpod from a student's perspective. So I have a code up on screen here, and if you have your phone or access to another device, I really recommend that you go to nearpod.com. So that's nearpod.com. And down the bottom here, you will see a red box for students and it says join lesson. So if you enter the code that I have on screen into that box, you can join my interactive lesson. So it's VYNZM, that's the code. And I'll give you a couple of minutes there to get that set up. So it's nearpod.com and then go to the student red box and you can enter the code VYNZM. Now, if you want to minimize the Teams live window on your laptop or PC, you can also do that and just open up a separate browser tab. You can also enter that way. So if you're just joining now, you're very welcome. I've just asked participants to either open up another browser on their laptop or PC, or if you have your phone or a tablet to hand, if you go to nearpod.com, so that's nearpod.com, down the bottom you will see a red box with students on it, and you can enter a code to join the lesson, and then the code is VYNZM. So while you're doing that, I can just show you on screen here, you do have an option to share this out via email. You know, you can create a link to it where students can join, or you can embed it very nicely into Microsoft Teams, which is one of the, I suppose, the key selling points of this software, in the sense that it integrates very nicely into a class team on Teams, so students don't actually have to leave the Microsoft Teams app in order to join this Nearpod session. So I'm going to give people another couple of minutes to get set up there. If you're just joining in now, it's nearpod.com. Enter it into your browser or on your phone. Then the red box where it says students, if you enter the lesson code VYNZM, you'll be able to join our interactive lesson here. And again, this integrates very nicely into Microsoft Teams. You can actually launch the live lesson within the Class Teams platform. Okay, so we seem to have a good few people joined in there. So I'm going to go ahead and start this session. But just to point out, the view that you're going to see on screen is the teacher view. Okay, so the view that you have on your second device or in your browser is the view that students have. But behind the scenes as a teacher, you have the view that I will share via the Teams live event. Okay, perfect. So there is a function down here, and I use it a lot with students when I'm using Nearpod. So you can hide their names so that they don't display on the student screens, or you can choose to show them. And I'll change that throughout the session so that you can see what that looks like. But it is worth playing around with and having a practice run if you're going to launch a live lesson to students. You know, I suppose they feel more comfortable in some cases, particularly in a youth reach environment, to share their kind of opinions or their thoughts on something if you hide their names, so their names are not visible. But I'll show you what that looks like as we go ahead. Okay, so I'm going to have a quick look at student engagement, and what better way to do it than by using the Nearpod live lesson feature here. So I'm going to start off by sending out a poll, and that's just going to gather your initial thoughts on the topic of student engagement. And this is a really good way to, I suppose, hook learners in when you're starting a new topic with them. If you send them a poll to find out what they already know about the topic, it really helps to kind of keep them engaged. So you can see there, I've just clicked to hide student names. So that means as your answers come in, they won't be visible. So I'll leave that on for this. Okay, and then as the teacher, you can click to share out the results. And you should see that coming up on your screen. Then if you have a look over at my screen, you can actually see that you can see all the students' results. So if I unshare that, you can actually see what people have answered. Okay, so it's a really good way to kind of do a quick poll with learners within a lesson. So moving on. So just again to kind of have a look at what I hope to cover in this webinar. So we will take a look at what learner engagement is. We'll look at some of the strategies that you can use within Nearpod or that are replicable across other platforms, just to help boost learner engagement. We can look at how Nearpod can enhance the learning for all of your students or their outcomes. You know, from experience, learners of all ages really enjoy using this platform. I know I myself completed a course recently where a lot of the content was within Nearpod, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm an adult. So it's not just for the younger or youth reach learners, you know, it's usable across all age groups. All accessibility levels. As if you tuned into the immersive reader session earlier, you would have heard me note that immersive reader is built into Nearpod and it is accessible on the free account as well as the licensed options. So from this, you'll get a chance to experience Nearpod from a student's perspective. You'll also get to see me create a Nearpod presentation with a couple of interactive activities at the end. And then I've already talked about the accessibility, so I'm going to move on. Okay, so what is Nearpod? It's a student engagement platform, all in the cloud, all online. So when you have a teacher account, basically you have some cloud storage with that, and you can store all your presentations that are ready to be launched to your class there, and you can copy them, you can edit them, you can reuse them. The interactive lessons or assessments, whichever you prefer to use them for, can be accessed on any internet-ready device. And that's really one of the key selling points of this technology, in the sense that any device that has internet can access this lesson. So there's two options with how you launch a lesson to a student. You can either do a live lesson like I'm doing now, and that means the teacher controls the pace, or there is a self-paced option where you give learners the code and then they can choose to log in at any time and, you know, step by step go through your lesson themselves. And I've used that a couple of times with students, and it's been very successful. In general, I would find really good engagement with using this platform once they've become familiar with how to use it. So student engagement then, just to look at, you know, what does that mean? What does it mean for our learners to be engaged in our lessons? And I've come across this definition here, but it's their attention, curiosity, their interest, or their optimism, passion that students show when they are learning or being taught, which extends to their level of motivation that they have to learn or progress in their education. You know, so as teachers, you know, that's a lot to swallow. So how do we do that, or how do we approach that? And that's something that I want to look at here with an interactive activity. On the next slide. So this is a collaborative board. So you can use the box down the bottom to type in text, or you can click on the little image icon, which will let you search for images online. So this is like a large group mind map. So student engagement as a teacher, what strategies do you use to try to engage your students? So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes there to fill this in. And again, I'm going to hide names. So please feel free to populate the board there with whatever comes to mind with, as a teacher, what strategies do you use to try to engage your students? Don't forget to click post. You'll see there as well that you can actually like different answers. So there's some really good answers coming in there. You know, having conversations with our learners, building relationships with them, finding a starting point that means something to them or that will spark personal engagement. Again, back to the building good relationships. And PowerPoint video discussion, group work, conversations, role plays, relating activities to current affairs. I really like that. You know, if you can make learning relevant to your learners, it really helps to keep them engaged. Connect with student interests, really important. Videos, images, be kind. Test to see if I have to click post. I love it. Very good. Icebreakers. What's this? Oh, humor. I love it. Very good. Storytelling, quizzes, pictures, fun, demonstration, problems in class, discussion, role play. Absolutely, it's really valuable, I suppose, to kind of have this opportunity to share, you know, some of the strategies that we use for student engagement. Music, absolutely, making it relevant. Yes, YouTube is great. You know, it's such a familiar platform for most people, you know, and I suppose I don't mean to exclude those who have limited access or technical skills, but in most cases, kind of people who are technically connected, they've experienced YouTube, and it's a comfortable platform for them to start out with. Finding out as much as you can about students, so their likes and dislikes. Absolutely, you know, that all comes back to the relationship building, and for me that's key. That's at the heart of teaching. Keeping it current. Very good. Okay, so I'm going to give another 30 seconds if anyone wants to add to that board, and then after that I'll move on. Okay, so the interactive activities that are available in Nearpod. So you've just seen a collaborative board, and at the start you would have experienced a poll. So some of the other features that you can quickly add are quizzes, open-ended questions, matching pairs, a drawing board. So you can actually place an image in the background and then you can get students to draw on top of it, fill in the blanks. memory tests, embed a form, 3D objects, or virtual field trips. You can also place in very easily some online content. So you can link in an article, a video, a slideshow, a sway, an audio, or there's access to BBC World videos as well if you have the Gold account. And I'll talk about licensing towards the end of this session. Okay, so I just very quickly wanted to share this with you. Last year, I had a great opportunity to complete the TEL for FET certificate with National College of Ireland. And one of my inquiries of practice, I used Nearpod as one of the EdTech tools for that piece of research. And this is just some of the feedback that I got back from a group of students in Youth Reach. You know, and for me, the results here, they make it a no-brainer. So, for example, would you like to use Nearpod more often? 75% said yes, and 25% said maybe. So there wasn't one student in that group of 12 who said no. You know, and that's huge for me. Do you think you learn more in class when the teacher uses Nearpod? You know, an overwhelming almost 80 or 83 to 84% there, 10 in total said yes. Wow. You know, for students to be able to quantify or, you know, think that they learn more when they actually use this software, this student engagement in platform, it really blew me away. You know, again, not one student answered no. And I promise 100% they were not bribed. I really, really wanted them to be honest. You know, because for me, that's what it's about. Their voice is important. And at the end of the day, it is their learning experience. So it's important that they get a chance to share their opinions and views on that. So another question there is it easier to share my opinion in class when we use Nearpod? You know, overall 8 kind of rated that at the top. They gave it 5 stars, 1, 4, and 3 were in the middle. You know, that's huge for me. One of the key things that kind of I find with using this platform is particularly for your ASD students, you know, this platform gives them a voice because they can type it in, they can feel safe in the classroom as well because their name is not shared. I, as the teacher, know from my analytics and from seeing on my screen, but the students don't actually know where the opinions are coming from. And I think what's really important as well from the teacher's perspective is you can moderate all comments or all questions before you share them. So they don't necessarily have to go straight live out to all the other students. So if you, just in case if you wanted to protect maybe, I don't know, a rude comment or something that's inappropriate, you can moderate all of the activities to keep them safe. So I find it easier to follow the work and keep up with class when we use Nearpod. 7 gave it 5 stars, 1 gave it 4, and 4 gave it 3. You know, if I look at, I know kind of which students, I suppose, gave the answers to each of these. I suppose it was the stronger students actually who tended to be in the middle on that, because no matter what I was doing with them, they were able to keep up. You know, but for me, it really, really helped and boosted both the confidence, the performance and the engagement of the weaker students in my class. And that for me was really valuable. So taking a look at their favorite activities then, a lot of them really liked the collaborative boards. They liked that they could search on images and add images to them. They also liked that people didn't see their names, so that moderation is really important. Polls came up quite high next. I think particularly the students that I worked with in general, they liked being asked their opinion and they also liked sharing it. So that's something to maybe keep in mind. Open-ended questions were quite popular as well. Quizzes, video linked to open-ended questions. So they would watch a video and then answer an open-ended question at the end of it. And I brought them on a virtual field trip to taking a look at a classroom in Uganda. It was interesting that featured quite low down. Maybe if I'd have gotten a chance to do a few more of them, that might have featured a bit higher. But there is kind of cool field trip or virtual activities built in there that you can check out as well. And so that's just an overview of what I found from the student perspectives of using Nearpod. And I'm going to move on. Okay, so just to show you as well that Flipgrid is actually one of the integrations with Nearpod. So you can create a grid and load it straight to an activity, which, you know, for me really changes the pace of this. I have my Nearpod within Microsoft Teams, and then I have my apps that I use a lot. So Flipgrid would have been one of them, linked in to my Nearpod. You know, it kind of everything joins up in the one place, and it's seamless. Immersive Reader is across all of them, and they work very well together. They complement each other. So here is our Flipgrid grid on the PD Hub again. So kind of you can see that straight from here. You can have students, if they want to watch those videos, or you can get them to post their own. It is integrated. So you can take a look at that. Okay, so that's the end of the live lesson on Nearpod. I'm going to come back and check if there's any questions that I need to look after or see if I can answer. And then in a couple of minutes, I'll walk you through creating an interactive lesson in Nearpod. So Yvette, do you have any questions there?
Thanks, Ashley. That was a lovely presentation. Currently no questions. I think people are digesting.
There's a lot in it. There's an awful lot in it.
So we'll give it a minute, see if anybody has a question, and if not, then we can move on to the next thing. Let's give them a moment to type.
Perfect. While I'm waiting to see if there's any questions coming in, what I might actually do is very quickly talk about the licensing options here. So there is a free licensing option for teachers, so you can set up a free account. It does have single sign-on, so you can log straight into Nearpod with your Microsoft or KWE2B 365 email address and password, which is great. Anything to reduce those passwords. After that, you have access to some free lessons in the library, and I'll give you a quick tour of that. And you've access to, I suppose, the interactive activities that I showed you during that session and some more. But there is kind of an upgrade or a gold account license available. If it's something that you think you will be interested in using, or you think that you would benefit either yourself as a teacher in your classroom, or if it's a coordinator or across a program, please do get in touch with me, and I might be able to do something on an organizational license, which would open up access to Nearpod for everybody. So if you get in touch with me, if you think that that's something you'd be interested in, I'd really appreciate it.
Okay, Ashley, no active questions, so I think you're okay to move on.
Perfect, thanks Emil. Okay. So, for a second. Okay. So I'm just going to come back to my Nearpod homepage. That will just take a minute. There we go. Okay, so this is what your Nearpod homepage looks like when you have a teacher account. So you can see there at the moment I'm a silver user. So unfortunately my gold trial has expired, but that's okay. Again, if anyone is interested in using this or upgrading their license, please do get in touch and we can see if there's anything we can do there with organizational licensing. Okay, so down here you will see the lessons that I have within my library. Okay. So here's the lesson that I did with you just a few minutes ago. So within your teacher user interface here on the dashboard, when you hover over your lessons, you have an option to click for a live lesson, or you have an option to share student paste. And I'm just going to show you what that looks like. Okay, so that's gone on me as well, but basically when we do it, I'll have it back. I'll have it for a while. But basically, if you want to do this kind of for the next academic year, we do need to look at licensing. So please do get in touch if it's something you're interested in. But by sharing this code out, or by embedding it into Microsoft Teams, students can walk themselves through the lesson themselves. So that function is really, really good. Okay, within here, you can also preview your lessons and take a look at them to see if there's anything you want to change. So very quickly, I just want to show you the Nearpod lesson library, because there's tons of free lessons in here for all different age groups and for different topics. So I'm quickly going to just filter and show you some of the free options that are available there. And I'm going to set it to high school. But a lot of these lessons are suitable for adult learners as well. And what's really great about them is you can actually edit them. So there's different lessons there for social studies, maths, there's icebreakers, science. What else have we got there that jumps out? There's some really good technology lessons available as well. For anyone who watched the Michael Jordan documentary on Netflix, you know, there's a lesson populated in there already for English language. So there's tons in here, you know, they've specific life skills lessons, financial literacy, quadratic equations, all of these things. You can quickly add these to your own library, and then you can actually go in and edit the lessons. Okay, so you can keep what you want and delete what you don't want. Okay, and that's really, really easy to do. So it's about kind of having a play around with it, exploring what's in there and looking at what you want. But what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to show you how to set up an interactive lesson with content that you might already have. You know, for me, it's about trying not to reinvent the wheel as much as possible. So what's great about Nearpod is that you can very easily add PowerPoints that you already have straight here, and then you can add the interactive activities around those slides, which is a really cool feature. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that. So if you click lesson in Nearpod, okay, and then if you use the restore down function, I have just a dummy PowerPoint here on my desktop that I'm just going to use for this. If you drag it in, drop it, it lands in there. Okay, so that's processing at the moment, and that generally takes a second, but I'm just going to show you here how to add some of the activities that I would have had. So if you click add slide, then you have two options here. So there's my PowerPoint ready. It's only 2 slides. It's just to give you an idea how you can drag and drop your PowerPoint content in here. One thing I would say on that, excuse me, is if you're adding your PowerPoint content to Nearpod, I would highly recommend going back through your slides and making sure that they're clean. And when I say clean, I mean, you know, kind of only having relevant text, trying to have some images as well, and making sure that they'll display well on full screen and that they're accessible. You know, it's kind of important. The lessons are more engaging when there's less text on the screen. So really ask yourself, you know, is the content important? Does it need to be there, or is it a filler? And if it's a filler, take it out. So back to adding the interactive activities. So I'm going to click on the plus to add a slide. And in here, you have 2 options then. So you can either choose from adding more learning content, or you can add interactive activities. So I'm just going to have a look through how this looks. So say for video there. So I'm going to go ahead and put in just Nearpod, search it on YouTube, which is fantastic. What is Nearpod? And I'm going to save this into my interactive lesson. So here it is. Okay, so I have a title slide there. I'm going to move this video up, just left click, drag and drop. So I now have a what is Nearpod video from YouTube. Then my next slide, I have some learning intentions for this session, which is really, really important. What I want to actually do next is go and add a poll. So if you click add slide, click across to activities, click down to poll. And then my question is going to be, have you heard about Nearpod? Yes, no, click to add answer. Oh, sorry. Not sure. Okay, and I'm you can add a timer or you can add media, video or other audio instructions here, but I'm going to just go ahead and save it for now. You can have a play around with that yourself. So my poll is in next. Okay, so far I have my title slide. I added a video from YouTube. I have my learning intentions in there from my PowerPoint, and now I've added a poll. So I'm not really sure what I want to add next. So I'm going to go into add slide and I'm going to have a look. I'm going to have a look for some content. Not really sure. So you can add another slide, which you can create within Nearpod. So you can build it in here as well. But I'm going to try for some web content. Okay, so enter a website URL that students will see. And I'm just going to go ahead, just to give you an example, www.nearpod.com. I'm only making this up as I go along, but you can copy in links that you would have already in here to build content out. So save that. Just remember to check your link before you share it with students. Okay, so now I've added a website as well. Okay, so after the website, I'm going to go ahead and add some other interactive content. So I'm going to go with an activity. So let me see, a collaborative board. It's a really good one. Okay, so there's different types of looks or feels for the collaborative boards. Okay, so there's a yellow one up there straight. You just click across them and it changes for you. So what I love about this is it makes really good, shiny, nice, interactive content without you having to do very much work. And that's what it's all about. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, producing high quality lessons in Nearpod is time consuming. But if you just want to do something quickly, or you want to really, I suppose, update your content moving forward so that it will last you into the future, I would highly recommend exploring Nearpod. So I'm just going to go ahead here for what do you think about Nearpod? Share your opinions. Okay, and click save. That's my collaborative board added. Okay, so far I've 2 slides from my PowerPoint in here. I have a video from YouTube, I have a poll, I have some web content, and I have a collaborative board. Okay, so what else is in here? So you can search also for 3D in Nearpod. There's a simulator there. You can do some virtual reality field trips. You can take them to view different parts of the world. There's BBC Worldwide videos in here. If you've created some sways, which are really nice, you know, you have the option there within Office 365 to do that. You can add a sway and then maybe add an open-ended question at the end of it. You can also add a slideshow of images. You can do some voice recording and add that in and have students listen to it. You can pop in a PDF, or you can add a live Twitter stream. So they're the content options that you have for adding learning content in here to Nearpod. The activities then, time to climb is like a game. And you know, I've tested this and I've seen it in action. Vet that you heard from earlier there is an avid user of time to climb in the classroom. Students love it. Unfortunately, it's linked back to the gold account. But look, again, that's something that we can talk about. The open-ended question then is a really easy one to pop in, and I'm going to show that in a second. You can also choose to match pairs. You can add a quiz. As I said, you can add Flipgrid in. The draw it board, the collaborative board that I've shown you, poll that I've shown you, you can set up a fill the blanks activity, or there's like a memory test that you can make as well. But I'm going to go ahead and show the open-ended question. Okay, so basically you type your question in here. I'm just going to go with what are your thoughts about Nearpod? Right. And then you can choose to add a timer to this. You can add media, video or audio instructions. I'll just click on that and then you have an option there. So you've image, video, PDF, audio, web content, or you can record a voice recording. So you can put any of them in as prompts and then ask your open-ended question after that. So I'm going to click save on that. Okay, so that's that. And then you can also choose to upload another PowerPoint or other content that you have if you want. Okay, so to save it, name it. So you just click on where it says Untitled, and I'm going to call it Making Learning Wonderful. Okay, you can also copy out a slide if you want, delete it, convert to a draw it, so students can draw on top of a slide that you already have. A really good idea there is if you have a slide that has a picture of different emojis on it, you can use it as an icebreaker to ask people how they're feeling today, so they can circle the emoji that's relevant to them. You know, and all of this you can kind of record and store in the analytics of Nearpod, which are available for each lesson that you run. You get a nice PDF report. I'm not going to go into them today. I'll be covering it in another session during the week. But this is a really, really powerful tool for each individual student. You can get a PDF report that you can present for assessment. And I do actually know somebody who has presented a full module using just the reports from Nearpod, and it was really good. It looked great, but again, paper free, really engaging and enjoyable, and a top quality learning experience for the students if you kind of put a little bit of thought into the learning content that you're putting on, and then also the types of interactive activities that you put throughout to really push learners' thinking and get them to demonstrate their learning. Okay, so I'm going to show you the preview of this. Okay, so this is just my preview of what I just made for you. You click through the slides. There's the video from YouTube. So this is just showing you what the students will see and why that's there. The collaborative board and the open-ended question. Because I'm logged into Nearpod. When I put the web content in there, I just use nearpod.com, but because I'm already logged in, it showed me my homepage. That explains it. I thought I was losing the plot there for a minute. Okay, so we have that. I'm just going to save and exit it. Okay, so in here then you can add different tags if you want to share your lessons out there for other people to access, and that's one of the beauties of Nearpod, in the sense that teachers share a lot of their content. So if it's relevant, pop it out. I'm just going to put PD here for this and PD here for this, save and exit. Okay. So you will see that lesson. It just needs to process for a couple of minutes. The back end does all the work, thankfully. But if I wanted to share that out, all I would do is either, if it's a live lesson, click here and it will generate the code, or if it's a student-paced lesson, click here and it will generate the code for me. All right, on the 3 ellipses, I also have some other options there. So I can share it with other teachers. I can duplicate it if I want to make a copy of it. I can export it as a PDF. So that function there is really useful. For example, if you have some learners, if you've 1 or 2 learners or 3 or 4 learners out of your group that really just don't or can't work on technology, you can export your lesson as a PDF. And actually print it off if you want to share it with them that way. So that is another option. And it exports quite nicely into the PDF view. Then your reports are here. That's where you'll find those PDFs if you want to look at the inputs from your students, and then you can also delete it. So, Yvette, any questions there? Just check where we're at.
Again, you're quite comprehensive. No questions so far, but type if anybody has any.
Brilliant. What I will do in the meantime then is I will have a quick look in the Nearpod lesson library and take a look at how to add that, how to add a lesson from the library. So if there's any questions, just come back to me.
Okay.
Thanks, Yvette. Okay, so I'm back here in the Nearpod lesson library and I'm going to tick free again because I hate looking at paid resources unless I really need to find something outside the box. And then I'm absolutely 100% happy to pay for them, but not today. So I'm just going to go ahead here and actually tick the high school level as well. Okay. So if we take a look at here at, so why are Mondays so bad? I'm just going to go with this and take a look at it. Okay, so when you click on it, then you get into a preview. So I'm going to take a quick look at the preview just to see what's in here. Okay, so there's some text at the start there just explaining the lesson and the creators of it. Okay, so it gives you some objectives at the start there. So we'll move across and just have a look at what else is in here. We have a poll at the start. Okay. So this lesson will be suitable for some learners and then not for others, but that's something you need to have a look at if you're choosing a lesson from the Nearpod library. I'm just going to use this one because the principles are the same, but you need to just choose one. Oh, I've reached my max capacity. I really need an upgrade. Okay, so that is what you do. I'll show you one that I already have. So you click to add to your library. Okay, so if I go back home here again, I'll show you what one I already have in here. Okay, so if you just click to edit, and I want to edit the lesson that I downloaded, that's okay. It takes a minute to process. Okay, so here is the lesson. Now I can choose if I want to add new slides to this lesson or if I want to delete slides. So to delete, say for example, if this slide number 2, if I want to get rid of it, you just click on it and click delete slide. It always prompts you to ask you if you're sure. So delete and it's gone. Okay, if I wanted to add content or I wanted to add my own PowerPoint in here, again, if you click add slide, you can add new web content, or you can add other interactive activities, or you can always drag and drop using the restore down. So for example, I'm just using this to show you how it works. There's my Nearpod PowerPoint back in again. Okay. So you can mix and match content that you already have with content that's available in Nearpod. Okay, and like I showed you earlier then, if you want to move them around, simply drag them around. Okay, and like that, I might want to get rid of that title slide, so delete that. And then you can choose. The other thing that you can do is if you highlight a couple of them, so simply hold down the control key on your keyboard when you're highlighting multiples, and that will let you do that. So if I wanted to, for example, move my 2, I left clicked while I was holding the control key on my keyboard, and now I can move the 2 of them in a block. They're gone. They're not really. They'll be back in a second. It's just my file is processing. But that's really the ins and outs of Nearpod. You know, to look at where Immersive Reader is accessible there, when you ask an open-ended question or anytime that there's text displaying on the interface, students will have access to that Immersive Reader icon. So that will work no matter what license you have for Nearpod. It doesn't really matter. You know, that's built in whether you have the free account or whether you have the gold license subscription. So I'm just going to come out of there and come back to my library. Okay, for anyone that might have content already built within Google Slides, if you've been using Google Classroom, you can also drop in your Google Slides in here as well, without converting them to PowerPoint first. So that's just a note. When you look at the reports feature, you can see in here some of the lessons that I have. And I'm not going to go into detail on the reports today, but that is just where you find all of them within the dashboard of your Nearpod account. As I said earlier, Nearpod has single sign-on with Office 365, so you can sign directly into Nearpod using your KWETB email address, and that is 100% what I would recommend you to do, because it keeps everything synced, it keeps everything accessible, and best of all, you have less passwords to look after. So that's really it. There is thousands of presentations in here in the Nearpod lesson library. Have a look, see if something suits you, and check out Nearpod and see if it would work for you.
Actually, that raised the question there in the subject specific or does require woodwork?
Woodwork specifically? Let me see. So what I'm going to do, woodwork, search. No, that answers that. But okay. It's a great time. It's a great time for woodwork teachers to create their own content. You know, I think there's lots you can actually do for woodwork in here, even though it is a practical subject. You know, the teaching side of the content would fit really nicely in a Nearpod learning experience. So it's something that I really would recommend.
A few more questions then. If I delete a slide in error, can you retrieve it from the recycling bin?
Good question. I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because it always asks me a second time if I'm sure. So I don't think I have deleted a slide by accident. But I can go on and check while you're asking me the next question.
Yeah, I think there's an undo button.
Not 100% sure.
Can I log into a platform, etc., with work ending in Wicklow VEC.E, for example? Flipgrid won't allow it.
Yeah, I've been trying to troubleshoot this issue this morning there, actually, and it's completely and utterly my fault. When I was setting up the grid on Flipgrid, I set it up with kind of moderated permissions so that only people with @KWETB email addresses could access the Flipgrid, you know, to keep our videos secure in there. Unfortunately, I wasn't aware that there was still @Wicklow VEC email addresses knocking around. So I do apologize for that. And if you just leave it with me, I'll see if there's some kind of resolution that I can come up with.
Okay, how would students access the immersive text? Is it on the Nearpod lesson interface?
It is. So basically, when you don't see it on my end because I'm the teacher. So when there's an open-ended question up, actually there's one here. So let me see, when you preview across on it, I'll show you from here. So the open-ended question is coming up now. So up here, there should be an icon for immersive reader on student view. Okay, you don't see it when you're previewing it as a teacher, but it is built in there and it lives at the top of each piece of content that lands in front of a student. You just see the icon for immersive reader. Anything else of it?
It was just you were looking at the slide, and if you delete a slide in error, did we find a solution?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
There's a slide in error. Let me have a look.
I distracted you with another question.
Apologies, I think I asked you to. Okay, let me see. So if I delete a slide in here, delete slide. See, it does ask me, do I delete one? So, you know, this is generally why I probably haven't come up with this. So at the moment, I'm not seeing any option to undo.
Oh yes, subject specific again. Are there healthcare lessons? But that's similar. You search it, I think.
So you can definitely 100% explore. I think there are. I noticed some in particular kind of that were populated or dropped into the Nearpod library back in around April. They did different healthcare lessons. Let me just have a look for you. Might not be the best search. Oh, sorry, I'm searching my own library there. Okay, and again, if I bring it up to high school, let me see. So they're the lessons that are in there for healthcare at the moment that are coming up on top.
And then last question that I have here, can students upload or return their work to Nearpod?
Okay, it'd be useful if I had a little bit more information on that. It really depends on what you're asking, in the sense that it's, you know, it's built on an interactive system, so they populate the activities with the content directly. So this isn't something that you'd send them off to do something in Word or PowerPoint and come back and upload it to here. That's not necessarily how Nearpod would work. You know, that would be more your assignment feature in Teams or your assignment feature in Moodle. You know, it's not really kind of how you would use the Nearpod platform, but really good question, because it is something that you have to consider when you're building the lesson.
Yeah, just I think I have a comment on that as well. I gave students work to do and I set them a student-paced one. And what happened is they actually looked at it a few times. So I saw that they looked at it, but about the third time they did it, they actually engaged in the activity. So that was them returning the work as such, because they completed the activities on the final 100%. She'll show you that in the next session with reports. With some other questions again. So the learners need to set up a Nearpod account to access the lessons.
No, not at all. As you would have experienced yourself there when you entered in the code, that's all you need to do. It's really important that you tell them, though, that they should enter their proper name in as their nickname, just because it will show up on their assessment report.
Okay. Does the level of education only go as far as high school, second level here?
Yeah, that's open to interpretation, in the sense that, you know, it's up to you to go and explore the library and see what the level of content is like. You know, kind of, it's not that the content is narrowed to ending at high school. It's just they're the categories that Nearpod have within their library here. You know, if you actually take high school off and go down, you see you can also search by the different resource types. So there's options for professional development in there as well, if you have a look at that. It's really, for me, from my experience, what I found with it is I don't actually go by the grade levels that are here. I actually go in and look at the content and make a decision then. Does it suit me? Is there a couple of things I need to change or add to either up or down the level? Or do I just need to kind of modify the lesson that's already built?
Okay, I think that's all the questions we have so far. Ashley, that's been very informative. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining, everybody. So that is the last session for today. I have a little bit of catching up to do. I know some of you have some emails already sent to me. I'll get to them this afternoon. And I'm hoping to have the videos from today's sessions loaded up on the PD Hub by later this afternoon. I would ask if you wouldn't mind taking 5 minutes to complete a quick evaluation on the sessions. Again, you will find that on the PD Hub. Now, I do realise that a few of you are still looking to get access there. Again, please, if you can't get access, send me an email. and I will do my best to sort that out for you later today. It's Ashley, ASHLEY, Stevens, STEPHENS at kwetb.ie, and I will 100% do my best to try and get you loaded up on the PD Hub ASAP. I apologise that information, wasn't circulated to you, but I suppose there's different factors kind of in the sense that we're in June, holidays, different reasons more than likely. But I will do my best to fix that for you this afternoon. So please do reach out. Thank you very much for joining in, and I hope that was useful.
1 second, Ashley. One last question.
One.
Let's sneak it in. So if students have to enter their proper names, where do we stand on GDPR reports?
I'm processing questions. So if students have to name?
You have to enter their proper name. So he's saying if there's if their name is on a report.
Yeah, no, if their name is on the report, it's stored securely. So it will be the same as any other kind of document online.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any more questions of it?
No, just thank yous.
Brilliant. Thanks a million for joining in.